Here we have the WPF application that we created earlier on. It's just an empty application that references NAudio. I'm going to add a new class to it, which is going to be a sample provider. And I'm going to call it Clipping Sample Provider. It's going to implement ISampleProvider. So we need the NAudio.wave namespace. Let's implement this interface. And it tells us we need a wave format and we need to implement the read method. Now this clipping sample provider is actually going to be in the middle of our signal chain. So in its constructor, what we'll do is we'll take a source sample provider. And we'll save that sample provider into a private variable here. This source sample provider represents the input to our signal chain component. So the output wave format is going to be the same wave format as the source wave format. So we can just say return source.waveformat. Then what we'll do in the read method is read from the source. The number of samples we've read is the number of samples we read out of the source provider. If I just did this, we'd make no changes to the audio at all, and this would be a pointless sample provider. But I've called it Clipping Sample Provider because what I'm going to do is clip any samples that go above +1 or below -1. So I'll loop through all the samples that I've read and compare them. Offset is usually 0, but I will include it here just to be on the safe side. So all we're doing here is going through every sample we read from the source sample provider and modifying it if it's out of range. And then we return the number of samples that we read. And the new modified samples will be written into the buffer because we've modified them in place here. Hopefully you can see from this simple example that it's very easy to create your own sample provider. And we'll be showing some more examples of doing just that later on in this course.